try to give you as simplistic view of it as possible. So the thing that we are going to discuss is called as OFDM, and the biggest problem it has is called peak to average power ratio. Okay, and we call this in short as PAPR. Okay, now it is why what exactly it is. Okay, so let me just go one by one. First of all, let me define what is PAPR. That I think will be easier. So PAPR is defined as the peak power of the sample or the symbol or whatever you call it, peak power of the samples divided by average SB. Kindly mute yourself. Wherever you are. Someone has unmuted yourself, please. Yeah, thank you. So PAPR is this particular example. So we have to have peak power of the samples, peak power of the multiple sub carriers if you consider, and divided by the average power of the carriers. Now just imagine this way, that if we have a non OFDMA transmission. So let me take the case 1. So I'll take this as case 1. That is the conventional one that we know, that if suppose we have a non OFDM or single carrier transmission. Just follow me carefully, okay? So that is the conventional FDMA techniques and all whatever we know of. So suppose this is the non-OFDMA signal. So what will happen that if there are the symbol stream, if you consider the symbol stream, so it should be something like, suppose that x0, x1, dot 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 up to maybe x2, or like this it will go on up to n. And for x0, what it will be? It will be like plus minus a, or plus minus a, plus minus a. A is the amplitude of the signal. So either it is plus 1 or 0 or something like that. So irrespective of what it is, suppose a is the amplitude. So it either can be plus a or minus a, something like that. It will be it will be transmitted. So if I consider in for this non-OFDMA system, the power, okay, the power of each symbol, which is nothing but E of xk square, as we know, okay, expected of whole square of xk, that is each and every sample. So this is nothing but a square. So this is the power of each symbol, because ideally it is be it plus a or minus a, the square will be always positive. So a square is the power of each symbol. Okay, now if this is the power average power, if I consider this is the average power, if I consider, so then the peak power, okay, or this maybe we can consider this as an instantaneous power as well, instantaneous or average power, if you call it anyway, so that's the same thing. And the peak power, if you consider, that can only be a square, because if the power is a square, that's the maximum power that you can get. So for a single carrier transmission, the peak power can only be a square, keeping these conditions intact. Now if I take the ratio, okay, so PAPR, if the ratio is, so peak power, that of average power, so it's basically a square by a square, so it is equal to 1, and if you convert that in dB, it is nothing but a 0 dB. Okay, so basically what I mean to say is that for a single carrier transmission, ideally there is not much of a problem with the PAPR that is happening. Okay, basically it's a additional power that we are feeding into the, we have to feed into the transmitter. That's the idea. But here you can observe in single carrier transmission, we have to add 0 dB in the transmission side. Now let us check the condition when we are taking the OFDMA system. So let's take the OFDMA system now. We will follow the same rule. So for an OFDMA system, the basic difference comes in because of the IFFT operation. Already I told you today itself that IFFT being a very important part of OFDMA transmission, we cannot eliminate OFDM from our existence completely. Okay, so that's why OFDMA, the IFFT is an important part, but basically because of this IFFT, okay, the scene gets different. So what is the scene? So for example, I'll just draw this way, that this is my FFT block. Suppose IFFT, this is my block of n points. So what is happening? So this is my data points x0, x1 like this, okay, up to xn minus 1. See, this is capital I am writing because it's IFFT. So on the other end, we will always have the smaller values. So x0, x1, this is a convention we usually write, and this is my x of n minus 1. So basically this is the every bit, every sample, every symbols will undergo this IFFT operation. So this is the transmitter we are talking about. So in the same manner like in the previous example, so x0, x1, x2, these are the input sample that we are talking about, okay, to xn minus 1. So in the previous single carrier transmission, as we have specified it with plus minus a, in the same manner we will specify either it as plus minus a, plus minus a, plus minus a, and so on and so on. But the difference is that it is not like a single carrier transmission, because all these data bits are to be put on top of the IFFT operation. So the kth OFDM symbol, as we know, this also we have discussed in previous days example. So kth OFDM symbol, okay, so this is given by x of k, see the small xk is equal to 1 by n summation I equal to 0 to n minus 1 capital X of I e to the power j2 pi ki by n. So this was the generic equation. Remember in IFFT, when we were discussing the IFFT, I had already used this equation there itself. So this is the equation. Now we have to apply the average power equation. So let's have average power. Okay. So this is nothing but again same way E of x of k whole square like this. So if I go on calculating this, this is nothing but 1 by n square, and we have E of, okay, x of I square, okay, and we have E of bracket, this will be like this, okay, and e to the power j2 pi ki by n whole square like this, and we also have a summation somewhere over here, which is I equal to 0 to n minus 1. So this is the basic thing. We are just substituting x of k over here. Now very interestingly what happens, that this part if I happen to write, this is nothing but a phase part. This is nothing but a phase part of our calculation, and the expected outcome, the expected value of this phase factor will maximally be 1. Okay, this is a phase factor, this e to the power j2 pi k. Remember in the Rayleigh fading in the lab when we were discussing, I told you that how this e to the power j2 pi ft can be working on. So this is basically a phase part, okay, and the maximum expected value of this can only be 1. So what we can do, the equation comes down to something like this: I equal to 0 to n minus 1 e of, okay, e of x, x of I, okay, whole square like this. And if you remember, this is also, we are transmitting either plus a or minus a. So this is nothing but 1 by n square summation, this means n times a square. This already we have discussed. This part we already had got a value of a square. Irrespective of plus a or minus a, the maximum value will be like this. So what we are getting over here is that if we get this thing cancelled out, so the value we are getting is a square by n. So the average power is nothing but a square by n. Okay. Now let's just try to find out what is a peak power. Peak power, because we have to take the ratio. So the peak power, if you consider, okay, and if I happens to just show you any one such peak power, that also instantaneous power will be nothing but SA, because you can check here. I'll just take one example. So suppose what will be the peak power? Let us take a very simple example, the 0th sample, x of 0. Okay, so what I'm doing is I am substituting k equal to 0 over here. So what will happen? X of 0 equals to 1 by n summation of this is same, capital X of I e to the power j 2 pi, k is 0. Okay, so whole thing is 0. So I'll write it over here. This is what I'm trying to write. 1 by n. This is I'm taking for the 0th sample. So 0th I50 sample, just for our calculating easier calculation. 1 by n summation I equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of I e to the power j 2 pi I 0 by n, because k equal to 0, that's why it is 0. So ideally this is nothing but 1 by n summation I equal to 0 to n minus 1 x of I. Okay, the summation of xi. Now suppose, okay, this xi is nothing but either plus or minus, whatever it is. Now let us take for our example that all of the, because peak power is nothing but that all the samples which we have considered all are having plus 1, which is a worst case scenario. It won't happen, but suppose what we are assuming is that x of I, all the samples are plus a. Let us just take that. Okay, so this is plus a. So what will happen that x0 is nothing but 1 by n summation of I equal to 0 to n minus 1. This xi will be nothing but an a, and n times a. If I take this summation, it will be n times a by n. So this is cancelled. So this is my a. So this will happen for all the other samples. So the generic solution is that my peak power. So now if I consider this is my xk, okay, this is my xk if I consider. So the peak power is nothing but a square. Okay, so this is my peak power, and the average power we have already calculated. So if I take the ratio PAPR, if we take the ratio, it will be peak power by average power, which is a square by n. So basically what we are getting is something like this. Okay, so please closely observe something very interesting and very problematic that is happening. The problem is that, first of all, this is not a one that we were getting for a single carrier transmission. If you go back here, in case of single carrier transmission, this ratio was giving us a value of 1, and that's why we were happy, because we don't have any much dB to work on with. It was 0 dB. Whereas in case of multi-carrier transmission, after all this calculation, what we are getting is, especially for OFDMA, that first of all it is not 1, or that is it's not 0 dB, and second one is, so the first observation is that the PAPR is not 0 dB. So that's the first of the observation. Second observation is that PAPR, okay, increases with number of n. That is, the more the number of subcarriers, the more you have a PAPR. Okay, so that is what we are getting. Then that in fact results into a significant increase in instantaneous power. Now this has a different implication altogether. I'll come to that as well. So basically what our conclusion is that for an OFDMA system, the PAPR becomes a very important aspect, because already we have established that the more the subcarriers, okay, the more the subcarriers, we can eliminate the effect of cyclic prefix or the loss of the cyclic prefix. Okay, but here we are observing that more we are increasing the number of subcarriers, basically we are playing around with a PAPR where we have to increase the number of the amount of dB of or the power that is to be transmitted over the air. So just for an example, I'll just give an example. This is a very standard one. That is, if suppose we have 5 to 12 subcarriers, this is 5 to 12 subcarriers if you can have, then basically if this is, it has been calculated that the increase in the power is by around 10 dB is observed. So basically if you are sending the data, or if you are sending the power at maybe 50 dB, then basically you have to boost in 10 dB more power just to combat the PAPR if you are not applying any other technique to it. Understood. So that is the basic problem, because again, as you know already, we have established that supplying power instantaneous or increasing the power to a certain extent is not a very promising solution at all. So that is where it fails to give a relatively good efficiency of an OTM system, because the more you increase the subcarriers, the more the PAPR is increased. Yeah, am I understandable up to this point? Am I understandable? I know it might be a little tricky for all of you, but have you understood what is the difference between a single carrier transmission where there is no PAPR, and if there is an N subcarrier multi-carrier transmission, then why it is it's actually a possibility of a problematic scenario. Is it understandable to all of you? I just waiting for any query if anyone has. Anyone having any doubt? Anyone is having any doubt here? Guys, please respond back if possible. Because for two reasons. One is because whether you are able to understand it, and second one is whether my internet at all is working or not. That also is a testing, because I don't know whether it got disconnected. I'm not very sure. So that's why I thought of reminding you once again. So fine. So then since I got some answers at least, so PAPR is this. This is the effect. The how we usually characterize it. Okay. Usually this is also very interesting. That what is the other implication? As I said, that this significant increase in instantaneous power, what is the implication of it? Let's see that one. So what we are going to write is the characterize, how we characterize, this is, although we'll come to it won't be needed that much, but still I'll just write it this way. PAPR is usually characterized by something like this, CCDF function. We call it the CCDF function, cumulative distributed, complementary cumulative distributed function. So CCDF function, and this is usually is something like, whether it means it reads physically like this, that suppose you have an OFDM transmission and you get a value or get a calculation of that PAPR, calculated value of PAPR. So what you will mention is that whether that PAPR is beyond a certain threshold or not. So this is basically how we characterize a PAPR. So that is usually mentioned as f of x like this. This is the CCDF function, is equal to PR P, if I consider P as the PAPR, okay, greater than some kind of a threshold. So basically this P indicates the PAPR that has happened. So for a particular transmission, whatever is the PAPR, and suppose this is the threshold that you are keeping for that, even if this happens for 2 dB, 3 dB of PAPR, it is still under the purview of my transmission. But if it goes beyond a certain threshold, then definitely we need some alteration, some modification, and some techniques so that we can reduce the PAPR. We have to reduce the PAPR. So this is basically the of characterizing PAPR. Now let's see what is the effect, net effect of PAPR. One is, we have already discussed that the more power you are supposed to feed in. The other effect that is very crucial, and that is what we are mentioning as the heading as effect of PAPR, that is the end effect, what exactly it alters. Okay, so if you know from your AEC days, I guess this is understandable to most of you, although you have done it a long time back. So suppose this is my input voltage. Okay, this is my input voltage and this is my output voltage, if I consider. So in most of the cases, the amplifier, if you consider the amplifier design, okay, and we have come across that this will be the kind of a graph that we will observe. Okay, where this was something like this, supposed to be like this. So if you remember this line, this name, that this part, okay, if you consider this part was called as linear region. And why it is called linear region? Because if you consider input and output is linearly increasing. So output voltage is basically a amplification or boosted output of the that is what the amplifier is doing. Okay, so ideally the amplifier would amplify the input voltage and produce an output voltage to boost it. That's the role of an amplifier. So what I am drawing over here, okay, what I am trying to drawing over here is, we call this as, if you, I think you know it already, this is called as the practical amplifier characteristic. Okay, so this is how it is, that you give it input and the output is also linearly increasing. That's what I am trying to do. And this dotted line that you are looking at over here, this dotted line, this is ideal linear amplification, which never happens. Ideal linear amplification. Okay, but this never happens. Usually this is what we call as a saturation region. This part of it, this part of it, we usually call that the amplifier is working in the saturation mode. We usually don't want it to be in the saturation mode. We usually want to have it in the linear mode. Also, another point which ideally is understandable, or maybe you have come across, and that is called as a bias point. If you consider this as B, this is called as a bias point. So usually the frequency deviation, if we consider the input, rather the input voltage deviation, we usually will restrict within the bias point, so that even if the input voltage varies, suppose within this period, suppose I consider this particular band, if I consider this particular band, even if the even if the input voltage varies within this band, okay, the dynamic range, we call this as a dynamic range, okay, of suppose single carrier here, single carrier IL, right? So this dynamic range is still within the linear range. So what I mean is that the input and the output voltage are mapped properly, even if there is a dynamic range which works within the linear range of the amplifier. But it's because of this PAPR, what happens that when you are talking about OFDM system, the dynamic range somehow changes to something like this. Okay, so this part, this pink color, is basically the dynamic range of OFDM. Now, what does that? Why it is a problem? Because if you can closely observe, first of all, this part, if the input voltage comes to this part, this is under the saturation part of it. So that means that the output and the input won't be in a linear co-phase, or we usually refer to this problem as the non-linearity of the, because it is not a linear option. What I'm repeating it once again, that usually the input voltage should be maintained within a bias point. Okay, now we usually fix a bias point and we'll try to keep the input voltage within that. But even if that doesn't happen, we will consider a dynamic range within which, even if the input voltage varies, it will still be under this linear portion of the amplification. Correct. But in OFDM, what happens, due to the PAPR and due to the instantaneous fluctuation of this massive swing that we are observing in the input voltage, because PAPR is equal to N, what is happening, that you can observe that the dynamic range has extended. So what is happening, that when we are dealing with this part, the arrow that I'm talking about, the input voltage around about here, this corresponds to a non-linear amplification over here. And that is what we are looking at as non-linearity. And if this non-linearity happens, okay, the problem is manifold. That is, first of all, if this non-linearity happens, the orthogonality itself will not be present. The orthogonality is ceased to exist. So the very reason why we are studying all this, that is, if the subcarriers are orthogonal, then only the ISI will be removed. The whole process ceases to exist. That's one thing. Secondly, this non-linearity will definitely increase the distortions. So eventually, that is ICI or ISI, if you call it. So again, the very purpose of nullifying the ISI is not present at all. So that is primarily one of the biggest concerns with PAPR. And also you can observe that these distortions, in a way, this distortion, if you consider, this is also filter action. Okay, so we will try to use some filter so that the non-linearity cease to exist. So already you have used this filter during the modulation process. Okay, so you have invested something in the filter and the signal processing. So what eventually is happening over here, that after you have used these filters and you have nullified the distortion, because of this PAPR, the non-linearity is coming back once again. So if it comes back to the filter action whichever you have introduced earlier, doesn't have any role whatsoever. So eventually the PAPR has many fold as a problem that is associated with OFDM transmission. So first of all, it has an issue with the power that we have discussed, that more the subcarriers, more it will be having a power or PAPR that you need to extra feed in. Also, as far as the circuitry is concerned, we are observing that because of this PAPR, the dynamic range input voltage fluctuates heavily, and that results into a non-linearity of the output voltage to that of the input voltage, which results into the non-orthogonal transmission, the distortion and ISI included into, and naturally you can also add that this will definitely have an impact on the bit error rate of the transmission scheme, because definitely there is more ISI invariably increases the bit error. So you can observe that this is such a severe problem persist in OFDMA, although it has so many advantages, but this has a real problem that we need to take care of. One of the possible, there are multiple solutions to it, although I'll just tell you one of the few solutions. One of the case is called a single carrier FDMA. This is a specific technique that is used, SCFDMA we call it, and in that something, because see the problem here starts from the FFT block. Clear? Because remember in our discussion as of now, portion of this or the portion of this, yes, this here, the problem usually. Hello, am I audible? Vedant, you
Yes,
have
sir.
a doubt?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Vedant, you have a doubt? You have raised your hand this time.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, that dynamic, the part where you told about dynamic range of OFDMA.
Yes.
So where did that come from?
Yeah, that came from actually that if you consider the graph that you are showing, I am showing you now, this is ideally the amplifier characteristics. Amplifier characteristics means in the receiver. Okay. Now, or in the transmitter as well. Like basically, you are giving an input. The amplifier is amplifying the input and generating the output or boosting the output. So what I'm meaning is that if suppose this PAPR if suppose in a system where there is a high PAPR, then what we are observing is that ideally for an amplifier it should work in this linear range of operation. That is, we are feeding the input and we are getting a boosted output. Simple as that. Okay, because this is how the linearity should be maintained. So usually in amplifier, we don't work on this region, in this particular region. We don't work much, because you can observe that even if you increase the input, the output remains almost the same. So there is no meaning. You are feeding an input, you should boost the output. That is what the amplifier, its amplification process should be. But if you are working in this particular zone that I'm mentioning now, this arrow, it doesn't make any sense, because even if you are feeding the input, the amplifier doesn't change the output level to that extent. So what is happening is that when we are having a high PAPR, it has been observed that the dynamic range that is near to that bias, you can see this is I'm mentioning that if it is a single carrier, then the change or the dynamic range of the deviation of the input voltage, okay, doesn't have hamper the operation of an amplifier, because even if it happens, even if uh, the input voltage shifts from the bias point, okay, that the shifting is a very minimalistic, and also it is still, you can see that this point, if I consider this as A, and this is P, suppose this 2 points, if I consider this point and this point, this is still under the linear range or linear path of the output of the amplifier. Okay, but in case of PAPR, what is happening that since it is stretched over here, maybe like I'll put this as L and this is as maybe a point as K. So if you closely observe this LK, okay, this part. So it is it has spread in a way, the input voltage has spread in a way that it is going beyond the linear range of the amplification. So what eventually happens that if I go both in this part of the input voltage as well as this part of the input voltage, this is a non-linear amplification that is happening. So basically the non-linearity which we are trying to avoid is now included in the calculation. Okay, so that is what I was talking about, and in light of our discussion, the non-linearity means that the orthogonality will not be there. Okay, the more the non-linearity comes in, the more distortions will come in. Okay, and the more distortions will come in, it means that there will be ISI, and hence it will affect the BER as well as the filter action which you have done prior to I50, maybe during the modulation technique and all those things. Okay, so that is how it is like a cascading effect that is happening because of one behavior. That is what I wanted to. You don't need this much of details, to be honest. I just thought of telling you so that you are able to understand that what exactly happens with the effect of behavior. So one is the power part, that is we have to feed in more power. Second is that the amplifier will not be working properly and there will be non-linearity in the output. You just remember in this. Am I understandable, Vidhan?
Yes, sir.
We should work in the linear domain, linear range. Because of PAPR spread, it is spreading beyond the linear range and it is going towards the saturation part. And if I go to the saturation part, then input, even if I increase the input, output won't be amplified in that. So that's the problem. So that is what I think is fine for the time being. So maybe I'll just go quickly to this is basically already we have discussed, so we don't need much of time over here. So peak power and average power, this is a diagram for understanding purpose, and also this is basically what I calculated already. You can see the average power I had calculated, and the peak power is basically the maximum of this xt and x. This was a square in case of our calculation in many cases, and also you can express that in dB, and that would be 10 times of it. So that also I did in fact one of the things. And this is basically for single tone. Already we have discussed, so leave it for the time being. And this is basically for the multiple complex tone or for multiple signal. And you can see the block diagram. PAPR is equivalent to K, where here K indicates the number of subcategories. I already had shown you this separately. So and this is the problem, as you can see here, that the high PAPR is a one of the most important implementation challenges that is countered in TM, because it reduces the efficiency, it increases the cost of the RF power amplifier. This is what I was discussing about the amplifier part. Okay? This is the basic problem that is happening. And also you can observe that a large PAPR produces spectral broadening naturally because the orthogonality is strict. So the spectral broadening will definitely happen, and also it reduces the RF power amplifier action. That's already I discussed. And there are different methods of doing it, solving it or mitigating it. And in fact, people who might be doing their capstone project and all, you can work on this particular domain for that matter if you are interested on, because there are a lot of things which you can do over here to combat the PAPR. And this is some of the techniques which usually is used: the signal scrambling and the signal distortion technique. And you can observe that this you can just go through. I'll just have given some of these techniques idea over here, like the block coding, for example, like the block coding technique. Okay, so basically block coding technique, the fundamental idea is that whichever amongst the n subcarrier, whichever has the low peak power will be chosen by coding as a valid code. So the plus A, minus A, and whatever you are sending over the air, okay, so we will calculate the instantaneous power, and based on that maybe we can find out low power, segment or low peak to power, because we are dividing the whole symbol into small blocks of code. Okay, so that's one of the things. Selected mapping is also like that where we are putting some threshold. Remember, this already I discussed, this part only I discussed, this PAPR greater than Z. This is nothing but the characterization of PAPR. This is only I had mentioned just right now. using the CCDF function. So if suppose PAPR of the m vectors are calculated separately, so if it is the smallest PAPR will be elected for final serial transmission. So like that, there are different set of algorithms which are present. Interleaving technique is also very nicely used. Like highly correlated data are broken down into smaller uncorrelated data. So basically, it's improving the orthogonality in a way and reducing the PAPR in the process. So that is how the process. So if you are interested, you can just go and search, and you can go on doing this. Peak windowing technique is also very common thing. Envelope scaling is also one of such cases. Like that we can and clipping and filtering. This is also very common technique. That it's a very simple method where it cancels some higher values. It will clip the level. If the amplitude goes to a certain extent, which eventually increases the PAPR, the algorithm will clip that extra bit of information. But naturally, if you clipping of noise, that part of you, if you are clipping, naturally that will affect the resultant power, the efficiency in terms of the data rate, and all those things will come into picture. So eventually, all the algorithms will have its pros and cons. So that is up to us to decide which one to choose.